Testing, testing.
Can you hear us?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. We're ready whenever you are. Hi, good evening and welcome to the City of Sharonville's council meeting. If everyone will please rise, we're going to have a moment of silence and then we are going to have the Pledge of Allegiance led by Mr. Tankersley. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You can be seated. Mrs. Buhite, roll call, please.
Sure. Mr. Tankersley,
Here.
Mr. Wilson,
Here.
Mr. Lippert,
Here.
Mr. Duda,
Here.
Mr. Cook,
Here.
Mrs. Knight,
Here.
Mr. Schmidt.
Here.
Okay, approval, we have two sets of minutes to have approval on. Approval for the August 17th work session and our August 25th council meeting. Is there a motion to, or Mr. Tankersley? Are there any corrections or additions to either one of those minutes that were sent out? Seeing none, those are accepted and approved as written and distributed. Reports and communication, Mayor Hardman.
Thank you. First of all, I want to offer my thanks to our partners at SwimSafe, as well as our entire Sharonville Recreation Department. The swim season has come to a close. It was different than any one of us would have anticipated when it started, but I think it ran very efficiently and very well in light of all the restrictions and needs that we had to do in order to maintain the safety of the public and be able to use that great amenity. And I can't wait for next year to come around and we can get the swim team back up and running and we can get to do some of the things that I know Michael and his team have planned to do with this year. That had really high hopes for some special events that they were looking to do this summer with a pool that we just weren't able to do because of all the restrictions. But they did a fantastic job. I want to offer my thanks to all of them for being able to provide a great opportunity for our residents and our members at the rec center throughout the summertime. The CIC met this morning, or not this morning, this afternoon, right before this meeting. And one of the things we discussed was the issue of our building on the Depot Square and what the future of that is. So at this point, we are actively pursuing entities that might be interested in operating some type of year-round business, whether that's eating, retail, whatever that may look like. So we're looking at some options. Right now, we've only done kind of word of mouth advertising of that facility. We're going to reach out to maybe some commercial realtors to maybe get some information from them about how or if they could help us in marketing that specific facility and for the purposes that we wish it to, as well as the possibility that, you know, will we get a better return on that investment if we look into some type of expansion of that building, making it bigger, to have a footprint that enables us to do that, and would it attract a different tenant that could be more successful on a long-term basis for what we want to do in our Depot Square in downtown. So that was a decision that the CIC worked on this afternoon as we continue to look at some options on that front. If you've been past the corner of Cornell and Main Street, you could see that the progress on the renovation of the fire department is going splendidly well. I know Jim also shared some pictures of the interior of that with you. I think they are on target to look to start to moving in the end of this month in October. We've had some little hiccups because of delivery of items because of COVID issues. Apparently large refrigerators are hard to come by because of COVID. So there's some issues that might delay that getting them back into that station and serving from there, but it's looking great. The progress is going great. I probably saw the chief out there. He's back in the corner. I think he's really excited about his facility. If you've driven by there as well, I think you've seen a lot of changes in there. The fencing's down, that is another real jewel for us here in Sharonville that should be completed here in the next month or so, right? Yep, end of this month, early October. So we're excited. So look forward to information about grand openings of both of those buildings so we can get you in, and then hopefully we'll have the public invited in to as well celebrate those great new facilities to help serve folks here in Sharonville. I know we've got a couple of folks out here tonight who are interested in our Hauck Road widening project based on the letters that they've received from the city about what's going on there. John Creech is in the back of the room. Wave your hand, John. If he hasn't seen you already, he's our community development director who's kind of helping to shore up that particular project. Our plan is not to present anything on the project specifically at council tonight. There is an issue with regard to a piece of legislation there that council is going to be asked to address tonight as far as giving our safety service director the ability to approve contracts for any right-of-way that's pre and purchased. I would encourage you to get with John and we will be happy to share with you the plans and talk through how it specifically affects your property, or if it does at all, as far as what is happening on Hauck Road and that particular project to help ease some of the congestion issues that have existed, as well as the additional work that is happening on 42 that obviously feeds into Hauck Road to help solve some of the congestion and safety issues that exist on that street and that intersection. So with that said, that is all I have by way of report. If anyone has any questions for me, I'll welcome them.
Seeing none, we're going to go ahead and move on to our Safety Service Director, Mr. Lucas.
Touch a little bit on the Hauck Road thing, but since the mayor did, I will skip that and just move into the legislation. There's 3 items tonight up for your consideration. The first one is the 3rd reading on the comp plan, and John's here tonight to talk about that.
Sarah's a panelist if you need backup. She can talk.
Oh, good. Good evening, City Council. This resolution 2020 R16 is in support of the City of Sharonville's comprehensive land use plan update. As you recall, actually the August 11th meeting, our consultant, Ms. Wendy Moeller of Compass Point Planning, gave a presentation of the comprehensive plan, and we actually held a public hearing at that meeting. Ms. Moeller discussed how that document is actually a vision and policy document for the city going forward. It's made up of a lot of good community input that went into putting that plan together. All the topics that document, they range from everything from land use, transportation, economic development, parks and recreation, as well as a lot of the parks operated by Great Parks of Hamilton County. So that plan is organized around 5 basic themes. 1, to pursue responsible community development, basically on land use. 2, capitalize on economic momentum because of all the successful businesses located in the community. Improve connectivity through transportation And the one thing about having this updated plan is it really helps us out when we apply for grant funding through the local Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky Regional Council of Governments, as well as other organizations that provide funding. It always helps to have a plan with community input and city council approval. So that document will serve as a kind of a reference whenever the city moves forward with any large or even small scale plans. You know, we'll look at that closely, share with you before we make any decisions. That's the idea. Going back, we started this process in January 2019. We had a great steering committee, attended all the meetings. I think there were about at least 20 meetings that we had just with the steering committee. We had 5 large public input meetings, one focused on residents, one focused on businesses, and then we had a meeting at the library branch here where we looked at specific areas in town. We got a lot of great input from the community. So that plan, like I said, it was presented at City Council at that August 11th meeting. Planning Commission reviewed the plan on July 8th. They approved it, and they have sent you a resolution of approval asking for City Council to approve.
Are there any questions? Mr. Lippert?
Comment, just, I disagree with some of the order of priority. I mean, there's a ton of stuff in there, so I'm not trying to nitpick. I plan on supporting this just because I think it's important to have a plan and the funding with federal and grant that you mentioned. Thanks.
Anybody else? Thank you.
Ordinance 2020-28 is an appropriation ordinance dealing with some of our CARES Act funding. If the council is so inclined, there is a revision to this ordinance that was placed at your seats tonight, I believe. We are hoping council accepts safe delivery on that. Scott's here to talk about the ordinance.
Good evening. The original ordinance provided for appropriations of the coronavirus relief funds that we received to basically reimburse some of the costs we've already spent related to combating COVID-19 for cleaning supplies, masks, a lot of partitions and plexiglass we put up around town, a little bit of technology equipment that we utilized to help people work remotely, but also to help make our tax office a little bit more distance and contact for the taxpayers that came in for one-on-one assistance. The late delivery portion, we've added some funds that would be used to go downtown on the loop and provide some picnic tables, some other equipment, maybe some portable heaters that would make downtown eating more attractive to kind of help those businesses continue to. They've had some success over the summer with outdoor dining, so let that success kind of continue in the fall with that. And has been working on those potential plans. We kind of added those late because obviously we're getting to that time period really fast and want to make sure we get this kind of stuff ordered really quickly. Having 5 Tuesdays this month, it was going to push us back pretty far at the next meeting to kind of execute that plan. And just to put this in some focus, the revised ordinance appropriates $110,000. We've received $270,000 worth of CARES Act funding to date. There's some possibility, some consideration of a Senate bill that would provide another $440-some thousand of aid. So we've been looking at projects and ideas. If anybody has an idea, feel free to throw that out here down the road. I know finance is going to meet next week, and this is one of the topics on our agenda. Any
Are
questions?
there any questions? No, thank you very much.
The last piece of legislation is ordinance 2020-29E, dealing with Hauck Road. Mark Meyer is going to talk about the legislation, but before he does so, Chief Hanover is here tonight. Law Committee thought that it would be good to have the police and fire perspective on why this project is important to them as first responders. So.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'll only speak on behalf of the police department, although I did talk to Chief Mouse this afternoon, and he echoes my feelings about this project, that Hauck Road and the congestion caused there, especially during the rush hour traffic, causes problems for both departments for, responding to emergency calls through the area. There are times that our officers have to avoid the area, go around it, that, they're on one side of town and they need to get to the other, and that would be the most direct route to where they're going. But traffic is bumper to bumper if you've ever driven through there sometimes. So this project hopefully will alleviate some of that, and if nothing else, will give us a lane down the middle that, with our lights and our sirens going, we'll be able to get through there a little bit quickly or more quickly and avoid some of those kind of problems. And the bigger part where this ties into the improvements that are going to be made, it's my understanding after this project's completed, with the intersection of Route 42 and Hauck Road. Once again, that's going to play a big part in being able to get to where we need to get to as quickly as we can. So the police department and I fully support the project, and I know that the fire department and Chief Mouse also does too. So I'll answer any questions if you have any.
Did anyone have questions? No, thank you very much.
Yeah, this piece of legislation, it's a little unusual because we're kind of going out of order in the way we would normally proceed. The first step in this process is letters are sent to the property owners, letting them know what the city's plans are. Normally, the second step would be a resolution of intent, and that's the way we handled Sharon Road, saying the city plans to appropriate. The final piece of legislation would be the actual ordinance authorizing the appropriation. And once all that is done, Jim can start entering into contracts with the various individuals. The problem here is because of the timing put on us by the state, if we wait for all of that to be done, Jim will not have a whole lot of time to go ahead and actually negotiate and sign these contracts. So we had a long discussion at Law Committee, and even though this piece of legislation certainly doesn't authorize the city to go ahead with the appropriation of the property, you really shouldn't approve this unless the plan now is to go ahead. So it's basically letting Jim get an early start on doing this. So again, this doesn't commit the city to do the project, but it doesn't make sense to sign this unless the city plans on going ahead with the project. And so far, all of Law Committee, and again, police and fire and the city administration and myself are in favor of this. So again, we're just kind of acting out of order. And that's, just want to explain that a little bit. I don't know if anybody has any questions.
We may want to add that we have already received one contract.
Yes, and Jim can't, I think that was the window people. I don't think we could really sign that yet. And again, it's just the timing would not work if we waited for the normal process.
How many properties are we talking about, Mark, that we'll need to have agreements with?
There's 35 on the spreadsheet. I want to say there's 30. There's either 35 or 30.
Thank you.
Thank you both. Did anyone have any questions for Mr. Lucas? And we'll move on. For my report this evening, I just want to brag a little bit about our police department since you're here, and I would have done it anyway. If you watch Channel 5 or if you've seen all the posts and everything like that, kudos to Chief Vanover and his crew, because they were remarkable in what they did that evening. And I know that's not your first incident that this has happened. But when you hear the numbers and you see the data that he has that says our police do it right, we have a very excellent police department. We should all be very proud of them. So I just want to say thank you. That was a great piece that Channel 5 did on you. It's a shame it didn't go national because it really should. You guys do a great job, so thank you. That's really all I have this evening. And I'm going to go to our clerk of courts, Mrs. Buchheit.
No report.
Okay, thank you. And our law director, Mr. Pietmeyer. No report. Okay. Now is the time for residents to be heard this evening. If you would like to speak, you're welcome to come up to the microphone, give us your address and your name, and you're welcome to ask questions or whatever you would like. I know I see some new faces out here, so if you would like to speak this evening, now's your opportunity to do so. And I have Danielle on as an attendee, and Danielle, if you would raise your hand if you would like to speak, that would be great on Zoom. And Danielle's just watching, no one else. Okay, we're going to move on. Council committees, community development, Mr. Tankersley.
I have no report this evening.
Okay. Community services, Mr. Lippert.
Thank you. We met on September 2nd. Mr. Kempe gave us some written documents having to do with potential budget discussions next month. Just a preview of what capital items he's going to be talking about with us. Mr. Blomer gave us an update on finalizing some outdoor pickleball courts, as well as a kind of a sad note on attendance at the recreation center. It's way down post-COVID, and we're coming back to that as far as any kind of ideas to pump up the attendance. But if you guys know of anything, please reach out to Mr. Blomer. Thank you.
Thank you. Budget and finance, Mr. Cook.
Thank you. I don't have a report tonight, but the next budget and finance meeting will take place on September 15th, 5 to 7 p.m. in council chambers. And in addition to that, there is a new committee that has been formed, the Project Oversight Committee. That will meet for the first time on September 22nd, approximately 5 to 7 p.m. in council chambers. We'll start right after Law Committee.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you. Honored citizens, Mrs. Knight.
Yes, I also would like to honor the police department, the chief Vanover and his officers for the job they did at the Travel Inn. It was a remarkable newscast, and I was just very proud that our guys handled it so well.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, police department.
Law and public safety, Mr. Schmidt.
Yes, the next Law and Public Safety Committee meeting will be on Tuesday, September 22nd, or 5 Tuesdays this month at 4 p.m. here in the council chambers. Thank you.
Thank you. We have been asked to accept late delivery of ordinance 2020-28. Is there a motion to accept late delivery? So moved by Mr. Lippert, second by Mr. Cook. Is there any discussion on this? All those in favor, yes? Yes. Those opposed, no. And we will be accepting that late delivery. Rule suspension motions for first and only reading on ordinance 2020-28 and 2020-29E. Is there a motion for the rule suspension? So moved by Mr. Schmidt, second by Mr. Duda. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, yes? Yes. Those opposed, no. And we did that. Mrs. Buchheit, would you continue with unfinished business?
Okay. This is a third reading of Resolution 2020-R16, a resolution supporting and approving the City of Sharonville 2030 Comprehensive Plan.
Is there a motion to pass Resolution 2020-R16? So moved by Mr. Tankersley, second by Mr. Duda. Is there any discussion on this? Mr. Mayor.
Just real briefly, Sharonville2030.com. If you want to see what it is, you can find it there. It's a great document that hopefully you all will approve tonight that will give us a blueprint for what Sharonville looks like in 2030 and beyond.
And beyond. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Buchheit, roll call.
Okay. Mr. Tankersley,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson,
Yes, I'm looking forward to seeing that final plan. I'm voting yes.
Mr. Lippert,
Yes.
Mr. Duda,
Yes.
Mr. Cook,
Yes.
Mrs. Knight,
Yes.
and Mr. Schmidt.
Yes.
Okay, or Resolution 2020-R16 has been approved.
Thank you. And we'll move on to new business, please.
Okay, first and only reading of ordinance 2020-28, amending 2020 appropriations for the 249 Coronavirus Relief Fund.
Is there a motion to pass ordinance 2028? So moved by Mr. Lippert, second by Mrs. Knight. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Mr. Tankersley,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson,
Yes.
Mr. Lippert,
Yes.
Mr. Duda,
Yes.
Mr. Cook,
Yes.
Mrs. Knight,
Yes.
and Mr. Schmidt.
Yes.
Ordinance 2020-28 has been approved. This is a first and only reading of emergency ordinance 2020-29E, authorizing the Safety Service Director to enter into right-of-way purchase contracts and declaring an emergency.
Is there a motion to pass ordinance 2020-29? So moved by Mr. Schmidt, second by Mr. Cook. Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Wilson?
I'm like Mark said, this is, we're going a little bit out of order on this. I don't care for that myself. I'm troubled that when you're rushed like that, mistakes can be made. However, in this situation, I've witnessed firsthand what the Hauck Road safety issues are.
Yeah.
You cannot just look at Hauck Road and make a determination. You cannot, there are times of the day when you cannot make that determination. There are, however, times of the day when it is really a safety concern that should bother all of us. And it's not just the road. It is the people that travel the road on a regular basis. They are quick to be impatient and take chances on that road and drive recklessly so that they don't have to wait in that line. I've witnessed it more than once on that road. And they don't wait long. You could tell that they have probably used to traveling that road on a regular basis. And as soon as it appears to be backed up, they just take off into an oncoming lane so that they don't have to wait for very long. It is scary. And so we're kind of in a bind here. And some of it has nothing to do with us other than some of the possibility of some of the people that may have represented us here. And so we're in a time crunch. And so even though I don't like the fact that we are rushed to do this, even more so, I am totally in favor of this just because of the safety concerns. It's just not safe. That's all.
Anyone else? Okay. Roll call, please.
Tankersley,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson,
Yes.
Mr. Lippert,
Yes.
Mr. Duda,
Yes.
Mr. Cook,
Yes.
Mrs. Knight,
Yes.
and Mr. Schmidt. Ordinance 2020-29E has been approved.
We have been asked to do a voice vote because we need to update our tax review board appointments. Our current council appointments are Diane Rabe and Mike Moyer. They are more than willing to proceed on and represent us with our tax review board. And so I'm going to ask for a voice vote this evening. Is there a motion for this voice vote, if I could say it? Mrs. Knight and Mr. Wilson. All those in favor of appointing Diane Rabe and Mike Moyer to this board again, say aye. Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
All those against, say no. And Scott, there's our appointments. Thank you. And just, the mayor gets one appointment, we're sorry. And his appointment is Mr. Lucas. So Mr. Lucas has already reached out to them just to verify that they wanted to continue on the board. So that's great. This is a last opportunity for anyone that wishes to be heard before council this evening. Does anyone wish to be heard? Danielle, you're on there still. Do you want to be heard? Nope. All right. Is there any other matters to be heard this evening? Mayor?
Just briefly, I should have mentioned it before when you guys approved the 2030 plan, but I think we owe a big thanks to John Creech, his entire team, especially Sarah Dirks, for, you approved it quickly tonight, but you all know that this was a project that was several years in the making, and a lot of good people, a lot of great input from several members of our community. We put together a great crew of folks to kind of bat around ideas that help us shape and create something that's not just the ideas of the 8 or 9 of us up here, as well as our staff. But I wanted to specifically say thanks to John and Sarah for all their hard work. I think Anna had some involvement too, because I think she kind of got co-opted into the community development department for a little bit, because since that's where our office was until we remodeled. But they all did a great job in getting the public input, getting that as part of this document, and then getting that to you in a way that really does say this is what Sharonville is and what Sharonville wants to be. So thank you all.
Anyone else? Mr. Tankersley?
I just want to recognize, not trying to take Chief Hanover's thunder away with all the good job that the officers did. Where we've all seen signs thanking the police department, and we support. I don't want the fire department to feel left out, and I would honestly like to congratulate them women and gentlemen and ladies, excuse me, on the fine job and outstanding job that they do every day also. That's all I have. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, is there a motion for adjournment? So moved by Mr. Tankersley, second by Mr. Lippard. All those in favor, yes. Those opposed, no. And we do stand adjourned.